coronavirus has continued to raise its ugly head as there has been reports of massive surge in the COVID-19 cases from around the world. A number of US states are currently reeling under the massive surge in new cases, while there are reports of the virus being in its peak in India. And back home too, there are reports of COVID-19 patients developing chronic symptoms, which surely doesn't augur well for the country's health sector. Good morning, I'm Amar Singh Pradhan and these are the headlines of the hour. Community spread of coronavirus is feared in the country with 3 deaths in the past few days. Patients start developing serious complications. Nepal Electricity Authority says infrastructure ready to export electricity even as 200 megawatts of generated power getting wasted due to lack of transmission lines. Civil Aviation Authority all geared up to operate up to 30 domestic flights every day from the 17th of August. And the English Premier League comes to an end tonight as teams are still battling Champions League berth and relegation threat. The number of COVID-19 related deaths in the country has escalated, with 3 deaths reported in the past few days, as all the 3 deaths were recorded in Birgun's metropolis. According to health workers, serious complications are being noticed in COVID-19 patients along with the symptoms of coronavirus. Infected patients have been reaching out to hospitals, and the lifting of nationwide lockdown has resulted in crowds of people in the streets and market areas. This has made health workers speculate a frightening coronavirus scenario in the country. A prohibitory order was imposed in Birgun's with the speculations of community spread of the virus. Likewise, similar prohibitory order was also imposed in Biratnagar from Friday after 4 security officers tested positive for COVID-19, while 1 individual returning from India had spread the virus on 22 individuals. Even more frightening is the report that the health condition of the COVID-19 infected patients is getting complicated. Of the 18 patients admitted at BP Koirala Health Science Academy, 2 patients have been shifted to the ICU. Meanwhile, the number of coronavirus cases in Nepal has reached 18,483 as 109 new cases of COVID-19 were registered yesterday. The indecisiveness on the part of Nepal Communist Party Executive Chairman Pushpakamal Dahal has led to uncertainty in the internal politics of the ruling party. Even as the division within the party due to power tussle is said to have been prevented for the time being, the latest remarks made by the top brass leaders indicate that a said consensus is still a far cry. Executive Chairman Dahal looked enthusiastic after the request made by Chairman Oli during the Secretariat meeting last Saturday to clinch the post of sole chairman from the proposed General Convention in early winter this year. However, by Friday, Executive Chairman Dahal had reiterated his old ways of playing Premier Oli for his unilateral ways. According to analysts, Executive Chairman Dahal can act decisively in the ongoing power tussle in the ruling party. An understanding between the chairman duo will clear all the hurdles, but Chairman Dahal's dilly-dallying stand has turned the whole party into what is said a hostage of indecision. The Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal has forwarded a work plan on operating 30% of the domestic flights in comparison to normal flights days. Meanwhile, a decision is yet to be made on either to permit full seat flights or not. Likewise, the air services companies are lobbying to increase airfare in case they are not able to operate flights to full capacity. We have more in this report.
The meeting of the Council of Ministers held on 28th of July had decided to resume domestic and international flights from 17th of August. Based on the decision, the corporation had started preparations to resume regular flights. 140 flights used to take off during normal days previously. However, for the first phase, preparations are underway to resume 30 regular flights per day. With the plan to permit 300 passengers per hour in the airport premises, the corporation is trying to prevent overcrowding at the airport. Domestic flights have been scheduled from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. from 17th of August. Preventive measures for health security will be considered in the airport and during flights due to the ongoing risks of COVID-19 pandemic. Airlines Operators Association has already pledged to follow health security guidelines. Meanwhile, a decision is yet to be made on either to permit full-seat flights or not. The companies are lobbying for full-capacity flights, otherwise they want the airfare to be hiked. Meanwhile, some 28 airlines were operating international flight service in Nepal prior to the extended lockdown. However, the Aviation Authority hasn't made any decision about the international flight destination country, as flight operating companies haven't yet requested for permission due to insecurity on having passengers for international flights. The international flights had been completely grounded since 22nd of March and domestic flights since 25th of March this year.
The electricity generated from 17 hydroelectricity projects are getting wasted in the absence of transmission lines. Even as the government is not able to connect the generated electricity in the national grid, efforts are ironically underway to sell electricity to India and Bangladesh. We have more in this report.
A cabinet meeting last week gave the consent to Nepal Electricity Authority to sell the surplus electricity to India and Bangladesh. The decision to export electricity is a welcome move, but according to experts in the field, the state is not in a condition to sell electricity. In the absence of transmission lines, the country has not been able to utilize the surplus electricity in the rainy season. 17 megawatts of electricity generated by Solu River in Solukhumbu is being wasted for the past 4 months. As the Solu corridor of 132 kV is still under construction, the electricity generated from Solu River has not made it to the national grid. Likewise, despite the construction of 25 megawatt Singati Khola Hydel project, the non-completion of 132 kV Singati Lamusangu transmission line has not led the generated electricity to be connected to the national grid. In the absence of transmission lines, the electricity from Thapakhola, Savakhola, Hewakhola, among others, are also not utilized. In spite of the dismal scenario, the Electricity Authority is saying that it has the necessary infrastructures to sell 1,500 megawatts of electricity abroad. There are a number of 100 constructions hydro projects owned by private enterprises with the collective capacity of around 2,800 megawatts. Likewise, Electricity Authority's 456 megawatt Upper Tamakoshi Hydel project is also near completion. There is a surplus energy of 200 megawatt, and if the demand remains intact, the surplus energy might expand to 600 megawatt in near future. However, the authority is planning to export electricity to India and Bangladesh, which according to experts in the field is not likely to materialize.
And in our Public Voice segment, we had asked the local residents of Salyan why has there been bickering and nexus between a number of groups in the political parties in the country. Let's take a look at what they have to say.
राजनीतिक दलहरूले आपसमा खिचातानी लडाईँ गर्ने कारण कुर्सीकै लागि हो।
कुर्सीलाई आफ्नो कमाई खाने थलोको रूपमा विकास गर्ने खोज्ने एउटा पुँजीवादी संसदीय प्रवृत्तिका कारणले गर्दाखेरि यो राजनीतिमा लुछाचुरी भएको छ।
नेताहरूले जनताहरूको इच्छा आकांक्षा नबुझेरै जनताहरूको चाहनालाई लत्याउँदै आफ्नै कुर्सीका लागि आफ्नै मान्छेलाई अगाडि बढाउने र आफ्नै कुर्सीका लागि चाहिँ झगडा गरिरहेका छन्।
देश र जनताको लागि भन्दा पनि आफ्नो र आफ्नो घर परिवार र आफ्नो छरछिमेकी आफ्ना इष्टमित्रलाई कसरी हामीले माथि लग्न सकिन्छ भनेर यी सबै राजनीतिक दलका मान्छेहरू नेताहरू त्यसरी लागिरहेछन्।
एउटा अगाडि बढिएपछि पछाडि फेरि खुट्टा तान्ने मेस के अब त्यो खुट्टो त्यसलाई कसरी त्यसको कुर्सी त्यो ठाउँमा कसरी आफू जाम र त्यो ठाउँमा जाम पुगौँ हामी भनिन अब पछाडि अब यो गुटले पनि गर्दा
विकास निर्माणको कामहरू भन्दा पनि बढी यिनीहरूलाई कुर्सीको माया छ।
And it's now time for our segment Public Pulse, where it texts us with their opinion.
Public Pulse.
And your question is, what could be the reason for the non-consumption of electricity generated in the country? And our options are option A, lack of far-sightedness, option B, managerial weakness, and option C, lack of initiative by producers. The voting for the question is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And before we wrap up this morning news bulletin, here's a look at the top stories one more time. Community spread of coronavirus feared in the country with 3 deaths in the past few days. Patients start developing serious complications. Nepal Electricity Authority says infrastructure ready to export electricity even as 200 megawatts of generated power getting wasted due to lack of transmission lines. Civil Aviation Authority all geared up to operate up to 30 domestic flights every day from the 17th of August. And the English Premier League comes to an end tonight as teams are still battling Champions League berth and relegation threat. And those were our latest headlines. Stay with us for more news and entertainment on KTVSD. Stay safe and good day.